side betting, the stream sniping, potentially rigged wagers. Was this something you were aware of beforehand or maybe had a suspicion of?
You knew it was happening, but at the same time, you're like, maybe I'm crazy.
I mean, do you have any idea, like off the top of your head, if you just shot a number out, like how much you think you've lost?
And I lost like over, I would say probably like in like a week.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another Bot Lobby podcast episode. I'm Grandmaster GOJJ, as always, joined by Katie Bedford. And Katie, this is just what it is, you know what I mean? And we always bring on the best guests possible. You know, like every single episode, it's just time after time. It's you and I, we're not even the hosts anymore. It's just us two plus whoever we decide to bring on. And that's just the way this podcast works now, and I am so here for it. Before we intro our favorite friend here, how are you doing? Just in general, how's life? How's things going?
Fabulous. Can't complain. Very busy. Gonna see you soon at TwitchCon.
Yeah. TwitchCon's gonna be a banger.
To that. And other than that, just on the grind, but very, very excited for today. We wanted to make sure that we could get out a great episode before all the shenanigans for TwitchCon kicks off. And I think we're going to have just that. I'm very excited about our guest.
Yeah, look, we always bring in Warzone's finest, and this one is, this guest is one of Warzone's finest in a number of ways. Just one of the most beautiful men in the scene, coolest cucumber in Caldera, and all of a sudden, just a demon on the map. I say all of a sudden, he's been grinding forever, from Warzone Blackout into Caldera, and has found a ton of success along the way. But I've been loving what he's been able to do most recently with Braalik, and so we're gonna bring in, it's the man, it's Z, it's Exzachtt, and really excited to have him on today. Exzachtt, my brother, how are we doing? Dude, you're looking great as always.
Nah, listen, I thought I had good gas and maybe some of the homies had good gas, but your gas is insane. I'm super stoked to be here, man. You guys have a killer podcast. I'm a big fan, so I'm glad to be on today.
I love that, man. That means a lot to me. I've seen you in chat, and we've had some conversations offline, so we're really excited to finally have you here. Got a lot to talk about, from your story into some recent drama going on with wagers and crazy stuff, and your tournament success. But before we get there, as per usual, now you know the drill. I don't even have to explain it because you've seen the podcast. We got to hit you with the rapid fire questions to start. We got to get things flowing.
Hey,
break the ice. Happen. So, Katie, you start us off at the very beginning, and we'll rock and roll.
All right, let's get right into it. Favorite person to stream/compete with?
Favorite person, Braalik, obviously. He's like a super quiet guy, but when he gets hyped, you have to be hyped, because if he's hyped, then you know he's wild. You know what I mean? He's a cool dude. He's super genuine. He's a really good teammate.
I love that. Yeah, well, I want to talk more about that duo down the road. But who was your the first creator or competitor that gave you an opportunity when you were on the come up?
I would say Doug for like Blackout. After that, going into Warzone scene, definitely. I would say, I don't know. I've teamed with a lot of different people, but I would say the more so like standing in there as like a mentor type vibes to really help me navigate the scene was definitely Isaac.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Isaac would be a great person for that. All right, favorite streaming moment?
Favorite streaming moment? I would probably say winning Twitch Rivals with Braalik and Nick. That was like our second tournament ever together. Yeah. And that was like my biggest win back in Verdansk. So it was a really big moment, not only for like us three, but obviously me and Braalik, like going forward.
Yeah, that was a very memorable one. I think a lot of people remember that for a long time, especially you guys kind of coming out of nowhere. Your favorite meta of all time?
Favorite meta? Probably the far secondary.
Shoot, okay.
I had some of my best clips. I had some of my best clips of that one. That's like my baby. I love that gun.
Have we gotten that before, GOJJ?
I think
maybe once.
I think the FFAR as a primary has come up, but not the secondary meta. Yeah.
All right,
it's the side piece.
Yeah, it was nice.
Favorite competitive moment? Might be the same as what you just said, but sometimes they overlap.
For sure. That was definitely one. I would say maybe like the other one that kind of out tiers that a little bit was back in customs in Verdansk. I was actually teaming with Doug and Breadman, and I was in like a 1v13, and Doug's like, hey man, don't even try to go for the win, just like whatever you can get, you can get. And then like right after he said that, I think I had 2-piece like linen and someone, and then ended up going out to win the game. And it was like a wild moment. I think we got like top 3, maybe top 4. So, but that was like a crazy moment for me.
A 1v13, I believe it.
Yeah, it was kind of like a lot of things just happened to like magically happen to get me to the end game, and it just worked out perfect.
Yeah. Well, kind of speaking of that, what has been your favorite Warzone competitive format?
Favorite, I would say it's probably not like I guess that everyone would agree on. I would probably say trios customs.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised I'm even saying that at this point, because back in the day, it was like 2v2s over everything. But I think Caldera really brought out how like much potential COD has in a BR sense to be like a team like oriented thing, not just like a 2v2 go slay out as many like bad people as you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
We get a lot, actually, of the trio customs, but let's talk about those 2v2 kill races. Next question, your least favorite duo to compete against?
I would say for this past year, probably like someone like Soka and like Shifty.
Makes sense.
Like those dudes, like you don't even check scoreboard because you know they're getting 10 off rip every time.
Yeah.
Every time. So yeah.
Hisoka has been on a different level the last year, dude. I mean, he has been.
I say he's king of Caldera. King of Caldera, in my opinion.
I don't know that there's anybody that disagrees. I mean, the only other kind of like people that can compete with that is you've got FIFA Kill maybe in the mix, and then you've got TBE because they were at the top for so long. But Hisoka just has been running the tables, especially as somebody that's kind of made a come up through that realm.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so 3 more, and these are some of my favorite ones. I'm glad we've added these in here. Do you have any game day rituals? Like tournament day, we're waking up, we're about to hit $100,000 tourney. What are we doing?
I wouldn't say I do. I'm a very like meticulous or like particular person. So I have like my routine or my schedule, and I don't like to go outside of that, or I just can't like lock in. So it's just like a regular day for me. And I think that does help, going into tournaments, treating it like it's just whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. What was your hardest loss?
The recent one, World Series of Warzone. I think that was probably all 3 of our biggest losses as a team. But overall, for me personally, just because I felt like we performed really well all year. We improved really, really well all year. And I felt that was probably like the most prepared and like confident I ever felt as a trio going into something. So for us to like heavily underperform like that, I think was definitely overall my biggest loss for sure.
Yeah, you can get some revenge with CDLR coming up. I know you're playing some games tonight, so I'm excited to see some of those.
Exactly.
Well, last one. If you could do any dream brand deal right now, a dream, like doesn't even have to be like necessarily realistic, although I will argue anything is realistic for you at this point. Where would you go with?
Something like, I'll give you 2.
Okay.
One that's like good for this space is like, I guess like a Red Bull.
Sure.
I love Red Bull, sugar-free Red Bull. I down that all the time. So Red Bull, please hit my line, please. If not, maybe like a furniture deal, like a super comfy couch.
Ooh.
You know what I'm saying? Maybe furnish the office. You know what I mean? Furnish the crib, the office. Sure. Everybody needs furniture.
Coach, how is it possible that we get such great answers? We get furniture. I really like that. We haven't heard that before. Yeah. We get a lot of things like Red Bull, Nike, Adidas. I still can't get over the fact that we still get Viagra.
Yeah, I mean,
from Ahsoka.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
Yeah, kind of checks out. Like if anybody's gonna give that answer, it's gonna be Ahsoka. Yeah, I think you could get a little. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Chat's talking about IKEA by Z. I think that just flows.
Okay,
you know?
I like it.
Oh, okay. I'm liking this.
It's got like your branding on it, but it's still like minimalistic. I'm here for that, man.
I love it.
Well, awesome. Well, look, we really appreciate you kind of popping onto the podcast and carving out some time in your day before you kind of get into some competition tonight. And really wanted to spend a little bit of time here at the beginning of the podcast talking about your story. I mean, we don't necessarily need you to monologue for like 6 hours unless you'd like to. More so just like, hey, for people that don't know you or only know you more recently through your kind of Caldera success or maybe late Verdansk success or what have you, where did you get started? What got you into kind of streaming and gaming to kind of get you to where you are now?
No, for sure. So I haven't been streaming, I guess at this point, it's been a little while now, but I started right in Blackout. So right before Warzone.
Yep.
I was still working at that time. I just moved into an apartment because I'm from South Carolina. The internet's not the best in South Carolina, so I had to move out of my mom's house to even try to get fiber. Started streaming. Doug is Raw hosted me like 2 months into streaming, I think. He really rocked with me, showed me a lot of support. His community did. We ended up running some games, and then from there, I started building a following in Blackout. Was able to go full time. Kind of pursued Blackout into Warzone, which I obviously me and Joe grinded Blackout.
Yeah.
Man, every day from his dorm room, we grinded that up until early Warzone, and that was super clutch to have because going into that, it was like a fresh start. We had our communities in Blackout, but going into a brand new game, there's so many big creators. It's like a reset, basically. You have to reset getting your name back out there. So it was dope to have Joe, so we could kind of just grind every day. His passion matched mine. I think that's important if you are going to grind it, especially in the Warzone scene, because we know how taxing Warzone can just be overall. So
yeah,
it was super clutch to have. Played some tournaments here and there, and then ended up duoing with a lot of different people that really helped my name get out there, like Nadeshot, when he did play like a couple, Crowder.
Yeah.
I think I played with Cheap. I've had so many different duos that allowed me to just, I guess, to network in the scene a little bit to get my name out there. But I would say definitely towards the end of Verdansk, once custom started rolling around, we were able to make a name for ourselves a little bit more. And then obviously with Caldera, linking up with B and Jace, because Jace is actually B's old duo.
Yeah.
So that's how we came up with that. It was supposed to be me, Braalik, and Youngsters. Young ended up obviously decided he wasn't going to play COD this year.
Yeah.
So we were kind of sitting there like, man, we just lost like the best person, like the best pick you could think of going into the next game. So I'm like, who do we get? And we talked about Jace, and we're like, yo, he's kind of nice with it, and you guys have Kim. Let's see what we can do. And that kind of just started our run throughout the competitive scene this year, and was definitely, I would say, for me personally, like as far as placement wise, way better than Verdansk, just because I was on so many different teams, you know?
Yeah.
When I think something like that, long-running duos, especially like what we've seen out of you and Braalik, for example, there are some tried and true ones that you're going to get, but oftentimes it seems like so many people are shifting and trying to look for someone new. The moment there's a bump in the road, they say, hey, I don't want to work through this. I want to try and find something else. So what has it been like solidifying that with Braalik in particular, that, you know, thick or thin, whether you're winning, losing, you're going to have that consistent duo in him, especially in a competitive sense?
Nah, that's major. That was something that was like the hard lesson to learn in Verdansk was it not necessarily about getting like a lot of talent on one team. It's about like finding talent that also can kind of work together through whatever it needs to be. And you're right, the Warzone scene, especially in Verdansk, it was very, you just didn't know who was going to be whose duo one week or the next week. So it was kind of like everybody's fighting for everybody's spots at the same time. And it's just so hard. Like I would go in, and I love Crowder, but we would go into a tournament, not really the best prepared. And then we played a couple, and then I'm going to Nade, and then I'm going to this person. So I realized like, dude, I have no chem with these people. So I don't even know how to play off them. They don't know how to play off me. It's just not going to work. And so when I found B, funny story, he actually bumped into me while I was playing solo quads, and he killed me. And apparently I talked a lot of trash on him. I didn't know it at the time. I didn't even know, because he was like super under the radar at that time. I'm pretty sure. So like, I was just like, this guy's like a rat, right? And he remembers, everyone remembers. I didn't know. And then turns out I ended up getting to meet him. We played some, and I'm like, dude, this guy just has a really good head on his shoulders. He has zero ego. He's very like down to learn from mistakes, accept, hey, I'm making mistakes. How can I get better? How can we get better?
Yeah.
And obviously he was very accepting like me, like, yo, we might have to take a lot of L's before we kind of figure out what's going to make this work. And once I found like that same thing in him and that same drive and passion, I was like, yo, we're locking this in and let's just run this.
Yeah, I love that answer, because I think that's one of the biggest things we saw in Verdansk, like Katie was saying, was that there were so many tournaments going on, in big tournaments going on, that it was like, yo, I got to try to catch my bag wherever I can. So if I have the top level competitor inviting me to play with them, I'm playing with them, and I'm not really building Kim. And then the people that did build Kim through that time won a lot of stuff. And going into Caldera, it was, you know, it was TBE winning everything, but it was groups like you and Braalik, and then adding in Jace and a couple other trios that really started kind of solidifying, no, we're playing together through thick and thin, and we're going to find success. I love that. Well, before we kind of continue to skip into the competitive scene, this is really an interesting question that we try to ask most everybody, because esports these days is changing dramatically, constantly changing. And I think family and community support are always two big topics to talk about from the very beginning. And you kind of mentioned that you were living at home and then you had to move out to go get fiber because you found some success early in Blackout and you went full time. What was, if at all, is your family involved in this story? Was it, hey, we support you no matter what? Or was it like, yo, what the heck are you doing? And then you proved, hey, no, this is actually real.
So yeah, my dad's like a major gamer. He's the one who put me on.
Oh wow!
Growing
awesome.
up, me and my dad played Halo. We played 1v1s in Halo, COD. He was making me get the hands early on, but it's fine because like he can't see this anymore. Sure. He just crafted me now, right? But sure. So dad was very understanding. Mom, she was understanding because he was understanding, but she knew how much time I put into it, how passionate I was. And I just remember the early days, like small things here and there. I'm like, Mom, I think I can do this. Like, I really do. Somehow I can figure this out. Like, I don't know how it's going to work, but I promise you I'll figure it out. And I remember I called them one night after I'd already been streaming and I was thinking about quitting my job to go full time. And I'm not going to lie, at that point, I think I only had like maybe a couple hundred subs. I had like 30 viewers. So that was like probably not the most educated decision, but I called my mom, my dad, and they were like, yo, you're young. If you're going to make mistakes, if this doesn't work out, you have plenty of time to recover from that. Regardless, like if you chase your passion, your heart, if you lose out, you still won because you tried. So why not? And that kind of solidified it for me. I called my boss, I was like, hey man, I'm putting my 2 weeks in, and that kind of started my whole journey with everything.
That's incredible. We get a lot of stories that are either, honestly, Coach, I don't think we've ever had a story from someone that was like the parents were like flat out full on no. It was either I'm nervous, but go for it, or as yours were, like, hey, exactly that. You are young enough, make a mistake, try something, experiment with your life. So I'd love to hear that they were behind that full stop. So you give that call in. Obviously, you already have your name at this point, but where in all of this, from Blackout to Verdansk to Caldera, how did Exzachtt become your name? What are the origins of that?
So I'll be honest, I made this name back in Blackout. I don't have like a super like dope name, I don't guess. Are you asking like where did I come up with my name?
Where'd you come up with it? How did you become Exzachtt?
It was just off some random. I've had like a lot of different names. Right before this, my name was like Euphoric, which I went for a long time, and I also went by Shiva for a very long time. And then going into Blackout, I was like, I'm just gonna make it like whatever, something based off my name. Obviously, my name's Zach, so I'm not that creative, I guess. I just went with Exzachtt and threw my name in the middle. I was like, dude, that seems clean enough. Like, I'm gonna rock with it. And I've just kind of stuck with it.
Look, it's clean. It's clean. And it's memorable. It's great. I think you made a great decision. You know, some of the other names are great. Making up words is fantastic. Like GOJJ. I mean, we're all over the place here, but Exzachtt is very, very clean. We'll love to hear all of that story. Really cool to hear your kind of background and come up to, because again, I think, especially like, I think you said it perfectly. There was this kind of like transition period from Blackout to Warzone that not everybody was able to make. It was a reset for a ton of people of like who's going to become and continue to be successful in Warzone, and who kind of is Blackout going to be their most memorable streaming moments until whatever is next comes. And you certainly made that transition well, with the help of others, but also just a lot of grinding and a lot of hours. But something that is super notable about you and your stream, Exzachtt, your community runs strong and they run deep. And like we see them in the chat, they're super active right now. They're coming to support you. Talk to me about your community. I mean, you can gas them up all you want, but like, where do you think this kind of like community building that you created came from? Was it something that you did intentionally, or was it just happening?
Yeah, I guess early on in the streaming, going into streaming, obviously I'm very excited to present my gameplay or whatever it might be. But I think number one, it was just the joy of like entertaining people. And then also like, it sounds kind of weird, but building relationships with people throughout your community across the world, where it's like, I just feel like I know them. Now, obviously I've never met anybody in my community. I've met a couple people, which was dope.
Yeah.
But I haven't had the opportunity or the pleasure to meet everyone. But at the same time, I feel like I already have, just because they come in, they share some stuff about their day, what they got going on. I share some stuff. And I think at the end of the day, I've always found it super important for people, and especially for myself, to just, with so much going on in the world, there's a lot of good, there's also a lot of craziness. But it's dope to just have somewhere where people can come and just feel like relatable, like they can just kick it. and just have a good time while also me trying to get as cracked as possible, if that's even possible. But yeah, I guess I've just always had community and building relationships at the forefront, and then building content behind that, I guess.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna ask, because I think there's oftentimes this interesting kind of like back and forth for Warzone streamers where, hey, I'm a competitor, right? And I'm going to compete, and that's my content. And then also, hey, I'm a content creator. I'm gonna build up a community. I'm gonna make YouTube. I'm gonna do whatever. And you've somehow done a fantastic, I say somehow because it's rare, you've done a fantastic job of balancing both of those. And the Sock Gang has been running deep for a very long time. Like, I remember you running through Superstore, and Sock Gang is ripping through even main broadcast streams. Like, this constant support for you no matter where I go. And it's just been really cool to kind of see that from the back end while you're still able to compete at a very high level.
No, yeah, I will say that it's a blessing. Now, as that goes, I don't know how that's happened. Again, I've had a lot of really dope people in my community. And yeah, man, especially for tournaments, like you say, they make tournaments for me, especially my team as well, man, just so much more fun. Like, when you look over and everyone genuinely is like, we're winning. Because I tell them all the time, I'm like, yo, if we catch a win, like, I almost feel like it feels like you win, but also your community does, because that's the set group of people that believe in you. And they're there whether you're going to take an L or take a W. So that's kind of like that's the family online.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want when you're building up a community. So it's really cool to see all of them kind of come around you, support you. And obviously, like, you do a lot for them. Like, I see you doing sub games and things that like not everyone does. And it's really obvious you care about the community. So wanted to shout that out and give you a chance to shout out your community, because they are great.
Hey, I appreciate that. I hate them. You know what I mean? But...
sure. Respectfully.
Look, I had to test the waters with this question in chat first, and I'm being told, I might be getting trolled, but I'm being told it's a family friendly answer you're gonna have for me. So is it safe for me to ask why it's called Sock Gang?
Yes.
I didn't know. It could have been dangerous.
No,
it might have been PG. I had to check first.
Hey, that's good. A lot of people do think it's kind of wild. I do have a lot of first-time chatters that wild out a little bit. But no, so I started it again. So I started streaming. I was working full time, and things were kind of processing kind of quickly. And I'm like, dude, I need to come up with a community name. Like, all right, let me think. And at first, my first one, I was like, I'm gonna say Zach Head. It's kind of like a sneaker head or like something like that. I'm like, that's corny. Like, I'm not that tight. So like, I can't do that. And then my entire life, I've just had a lot of socks, like a really big sock collection. I suck when it comes to like wanting things. I never know what I want. So growing up as a kid, I'm like, yo, like video games, and then like, yo, just like a couple pairs of fire socks or something, because I wear slides a lot as well. So I'm like, dude, I'm set. And then it kind of accumulated over the years where I'm like, I'll just call them Sock Gang and wear a different pair of socks every day and show it on camera. Now I don't do it anymore, but that was kind of like our thing starting off. Yeah. And I went through probably hundreds of pairs on cam, but so yeah, it was just kind of a cool way. And I knew everyone has socks. Everyone can kind of throw on either a dope pair, maybe an expensive pair, just a fun pair, whatever it is. It's just kind of like something fun, I guess we all can do.
Yeah.
Okay. See, that was a wholesome answer. Okay. I wasn't sure, but I like that. That was great.
That was a great answer, Katie. I want you to go to the next topic, but before you go there, you gotta give us the free advertisement. What's the best socks? Like, best brand? You got two. You got one athletic, one casual. Like, if you're a sock guy, give me the
have
deets.
Joe socks with his face on them, right?
I need those. Yeah, that's a good gift. I'm gonna tell him to get that for me.
Sure.
I'm gonna tell him to get it for me.
He'll know.
Sure.
Hey, there we go. Stance though. Stance all the way. If you need a good pair of socks, and that could be another one that I use for a sponsor.
There you go. Shout them out. A little bit of free advertising goes a long way once I start paying you later down the road. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
All right. Let's move a little bit forward to get back into some of the more recent events that have been happening in Warzone. Specifically, this is something we talked about on last week's podcast, but I'm so thrilled to have you on for this because you have been experiencing this perhaps for a very long time, and that's the issue that has come out of side betting, the stream sniping, potentially rigged wagers. We have seen yourself and Braalik talk forever about being stream sniped and constantly having these problems. So when you saw all of this coming out, you did tweet about it. I think you quote tweeted Tommy at one point as well. So was this something you were aware of beforehand or maybe had a suspicion of, or how surprised were you, I suppose, when Tommy kind of put out that tweet?
It was like one of those moments where you knew it was happening, but at the same time, you're like, maybe I'm crazy.
Yeah.
So like, but when it's solidified, it blows your mind, but it also doesn't. Yeah, and it wasn't even just me and Braalik. Like, there was just so many times I would be watching someone and I'm like, that just doesn't look right. And there was so many times where me and Braalik were playing, or I'm watching Braalik, and it's just very apparent when you play the game every day for like 8+ hours, or even if you watch even more than that, it's very, you can kind of pick up when something's not organic, or it's the situation doesn't make sense. So either the guy's cheating or they have to have your stream open. And that was something I used to talk about all the time. I'm like, with side bets becoming so large now, I don't know how big they were in Verdansk. They could have been big as well. I don't know. But I know in Caldera, side bets can go sometimes even more than just the overall what people are playing for. So anytime you have people where their money is accumulating that high versus like anything else, weirdness is going to be involved, you know?
Yeah, did you ever have anyone through all of this telling you like, you're crazy, you know, that's not true, no one's stream sniping you, just get good, kid? Like,
oh yeah, and I'm sure, yeah, and I'm sure there's been a lot of people. Was that hard though, when you're sitting there
and you're like, no, I know this isn't right, but people are like, whatever?
Yeah, for sure. I was gonna say, I'm sure there's a lot of other streamers that it's happened to, and they feel the same exact way. But it's just, it gets to the point where me personally as a streamer, I won't even really say it the majority of the time, unless it's like very, very obvious. I won't even say it just because I don't want to be like that guy, right? I don't want to be that where they're like, that dude's always like, always something. He can never just take an L. So I just won't say it, but it is incredibly frustrating. Especially when, you know, again, like you're not just playing like a fair, equal game, and that's all you really want to do at the end of the day is compete. It's not really about the money. It's just like, I just want to fairly compete. And now knowing this entire past year, like through all these wagers and everything, there were so many other hands involved that were from the sidelines, not actually players.
Yeah.
I don't know. It is a really weird feeling looking back at just competing in general this past year.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. As you look back in gaming in general, I mean, honestly, in any industry in general, you know, everybody's trying to make a buck, right? And money can make people do some crazy things, but especially in gaming, that's certainly a problem. And we all had the same thought. I mean, Katie and I were talking about it a long time ago about this side bet community, which is like, it is what it is. Some of it's wholesome, some of it's between friends and fun, but like the fact that it is fairly easy to manipulate lobbies by getting into them makes all of that, just the loss of integrity from like a quote unquote competitive standpoint, makes it much more difficult, right? Which is, I think, too, why a lot of us are saying customs are going to be the future. And so, yeah, I think, Katie, I think this is a good question. I mean, do you have any idea, like off the top of your head, if you just shot a number out, like how much you think you've lost because of something like this?
I will say, even just like recently from, I didn't do like too much digging. I had multiple people tell me, like in some of the most recent high roller wagers, apparently people were in those.
Yeah.
But I mean, I lost like over, I would say probably like 3,500 in like a week. And that was a lot of the games where like, I was like, man, something's not that. A lot of those games, it's actually me and Aiden. And like we went from frying, and then we went to reach out. And then when we went to reach out, it was like, we were playing for like 400. And then we went from that to like playing for over 1,000 and 3,000. And once the pot got bigger, the game just kept getting weirder. And I'm like, dude, maybe I just suck all of a sudden, but this is like this. I swear that's the same guy, or like this person's playing this odd, like, and that's what I heard when people were in there. So overall, though, I mean, there's no telling. I'm sure there's probably people that lost even more than I did.
Yeah, sure.
You know?
Sure. Yeah, I know you. I was seeing some of those like high roller wagers in the last several weeks, and so obviously unfortunate, but yeah. Well, kind of moving forward to the same, the next topic, but under the same kind of like head. With that in mind, like when you start thinking about competitive Warzone and the future of competitive Warzone, would love to hear your thoughts, kind of going into, you know, potentially Warzone 2. What you think like competitive Warzone should look like or could look like, and to kind of further delineate that question, like, you know, when we start talking about a potential Warzone league or something like that, I mean, obviously it has to be customs to some degree, but what would you like to see from a long-term kind of competitive Warzone scene?
I think so. I think you're right. I think it does have to go the customs route. At this point, especially with something like this happening, I think everyone knew like lobby manipulation. So many things could go into going into a public lobby, especially when you're competing for like 100,000, 200,000, 3. It's just the money's a little bit too much to have like all this weirdness involved. So I think going forward, if they want people to take Warzone competition more seriously, and give it the respect that like I think we all wish it had, and we all know it could have if things could play out correctly. I think customs would be a great way to go. I don't know how they would structure a league around that. I think they could though. I really do see so much potential for like we kind of talked about in the past, building storylines, man. So many of these Warzone guys and girls are dope players. They have so many really cool backstories, and it would be awesome to have a set league where we kind of have that kind of support to show these players and what they're able to do, not only online, but what kind of with their personalities. And it allows more of a fan base and supporters to come in to find, I guess, like-minded players, or maybe just somebody they find relatable they can pull for. Especially if we do have lands, you know, I would love to have lands even coming up as well.
That's we had Crowder on the previous episode. We asked him exactly what you're talking about with lands. For Warzone players, many of them, right, have never competed at a LAN before. And I know some of them, their first time was at the Baka Bros Wonderland, and getting his kind of insights on those nerves, right? He basically said, he's like, the game doesn't get harder. Your controller doesn't get more difficult to use. Like everything stays the same. So just take a breath and do what you do at home. Just, you know, you're by your friends, you're around everyone you're competing against. I do very much so hope, and I know GOJJ echoes this sentiment as well, that we do see more LAN experiences for competitive Warzone. I think it would do a lot for the scene, and I'm sure we'll get those coming up, especially in Warzone 2. But let's talk about kind of the tail end here of Warzone right now. Caldera, Fortune's Keep, CDLR II is right around the corner. You've been doing a lot with that already. I think you had one qualification, but I just wanted to know, because Twitter needs the answer here. How much did you actually play Activision to get pushed through that qualification? Because I know Twitter thinks something a little sussy's up, right?
Hey, listen, that's an amount I cannot disclose. I apologize. That was like an under the table deal. Can't really talk about it.
Sure.
Understandable. Just DM me, let me know.
Nah, I couldn't believe that. And again, and kind of like to talk back on your land thing real quick, I think lands would help do away with people like that kind of are like in their own worlds. I think it would definitely help solidify not having those kind of Twitter responses. I never respond, but that guy just had to get it.
No, that was cracking me up. I saw that. Your response was very appropriate. But how have the quals been? Because you have one later today, right?
I do. So yeah, we have one in a couple hours here. First qual was like pubs, like I said. We didn't play that one too much. We played all the first day. We played like maybe like 2 hours the second day, just because we weren't really feeling it. And we felt like we probably were good enough to kind of qual. I know the last one, we really wanted to like go hard, and we got second for World Series of Warzone in the pub stomp. This one, we kind of realized, why don't we not like mentally exhaust and burn ourselves out? Do what hopefully is enough to get us in there, and then really be like well prepared for the actual like custom portion of things. But it was good. It was good.
Yeah, and that ended up paying off. Just barely, right? I mean, you guys, I think, came in at 62nd. And if, for those at home or those that are listening on the audio later, what happened was you weren't qualified at the end of the original scoreboard that was put out because the scoreboard was wrong. There were some issues with the scoreboard because it was scoring via individual rather than team. And so because of that, some teams had jumped up ahead. They corrected the scoreboard, and you made it through 62nd, I believe, out of 64 teams.
Yes, close.
Hey, it's all you needed. You know what I mean? You had a little bit of breathing room there.
Exactly. And I don't know if that went into the pools. I don't know if maybe you guys know. I know there's like they did pools A through D. I don't know if that had to do. Maybe, who knows? I'm trying to say maybe we pulled like an easier pool, low key, because we're at the bottom. Who knows?
It's certainly possible. I don't know exactly how the seeding, whether it was snake seeding or if it was completely randomized or whatever, but still, you guys make it through, and then tonight you have the customs. Talk to me a little bit about Fortune's Keep prep. I mean, do you guys play a ton of Fortune's Keep? I know you guys do a ton of Caldera grinding, but from a trio perspective, how comfortable do you feel on that map?
We don't really play it, but I will say I feel really good. There was a Fortune's Keep tournament, maybe, I don't know, it could have been about 2 months ago now, maybe a month and a half ago. That's the only one that I know of that's happened. I'm sure there's probably been more customs that I just didn't play.
Few, I think.
But we ended up winning that one. That was like, we didn't play before. We're like, yo, let's just try our strats and wing it. And I think we won by like over 100 plus or something. We fried that tournament. So after that, I feel really good and comfortable with kind of our strats and how we're going to play. So I didn't really feel the need to especially at the state of the game right now. I think it's healthier for us to kind of, if whatever somebody wants to do, whether they want to grind or like hop off, whatever it is. Just be mentally prepared because again, I think we got what we want to do kind of tucked away.
Sure.
You know?
Sure. Yeah. We don't want you to have to reveal those strats on pod. So we'll let you keep that in your pocket.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Well, I wonder though, obviously no strats, but is there a determined IGL on your team, or is it more of a free flowing map to map sort of a transition?
I will say, I don't know. It is kind of like free flowing. I think we do a really good job of everyone kind of adds their input. A lot of the times when it's like super hectic, Jace, surprisingly, usually he kind of like mumbles, but he's always frying. So it's like the more he mumbles, the better. Like he's kind of, you just hear like little rumblings and team wipe noises, and you're like, just go, bro. Like do your thing. You're frying. But now usually when it's like pretty hectic, Jace will kind of like start to become more vocal and really kind of like line up everything, which is nice because it is good to, in my opinion, to have everyone come together for the best possible solution to something. But when it's like dire moments, I don't think there's like a perfect answer. Sometimes you just need someone to say, let's do this. And as long as you hit it out or you do that play together, even if it's a wrong play or maybe not the best play, it'll usually still work. You know what I mean? So I think we do a really good job of kind of passing that role off together.
Yeah, it's so interesting, Katie, that like every time we have these conversations with different competitors, everybody has different answers about what works best for them from a communication standpoint, right? Like you've got some of the like former CDL players and their comms are much more jumbled and super like aggressive is maybe a better way to put it, right? Just like constant communications. How much information can I give my teammates at once? And then a lot of the like kind of Warzone players, people that come from Blackout that have been running BRs are much more kind of smooth, slower, sometimes not even talking verbally. It's a lot of nonverbal communication, and they just kind of do their thing and it works out. So it's really cool to kind of hear the different like mantras, because a lot of people that we interview say you have to have an IGL, and you guys are basically saying, hey, we've seen success by just we're playing our game, and when people have things they need to say, they need to say it.
No, sure. And we've tried that. We tried to have like one set person. But again, it kind of came to the point where it's like, well, if someone else has a really good idea, why? Like, we'll figure it out together. We're all smart enough. We all play the game enough to know if someone shoots out a right answer, we'll be like, yep, let's do that. That's for sure the play. And they're super calm. We're very calm. Like, they don't get too hype. Again, you guys know Braalik. Jace is the same. Like, we don't really get too hype. I'm the hypest one in the squad for sure. They're very like calm with comms, and it helps out a lot in my opinion.
Yeah, what's so funny about Braalik, I remember like the first time I watched him play like at a high level, like in a big tournament, he did some ungodly 1v4. I mean, it was one of those things that like somebody might stand up out of their desk after doing it, didn't even blink, and main broadcast was like, is this guy real? Or is this some sort of AI? Like, I was blown away. It was awesome.
That's him. And that's why it's like, I don't know. It's so much fun to play around him. It's so cool because he is such like a humble and just a good dude. So when he does like amazing stuff, it makes you want to like overhype because he doesn't even get hyped. So it's like, bro, wake up, dog. You just went crazy.
No, that's what's so impressive, I think, when you see someone just look like a stone cold killer through an incredible play and they're just not even phased, and everyone else is like, are you a god? You don't even care. This is so daily for you that it doesn't even phase you at all. But let's take a bit of a 30,000-foot approach right now. Let's look down at everything that's happening in Warzone, competitive Warzone, but Warzone in general. The current climate is messy right now. There's a lot of tension, and it feels like a blanket of cheating in general that is kind of suffocating the scene, whether it is these parasocial relationships with viewers, going on witch hunts, people trying to, I would say, maybe farm content off of certain streamers. Everyone's getting caught up in this, I think, in one way or another. So what's it been like for you kind of looking at all of this consistent drama in regards to cheating that's just been building and building and building?
I think it's just very tough. I think we've all been very kind of like annoyed with the process since even like Verdansk days. And it got to the point where you're watching your fellow content creators go through, I mean, hoops and whatever someone could ask for it. Hey man, I'll set up every camera. I will task manager. I will show everything. And they still will have a reason. Or they'll just kind of like make up stats. So it gets to the point where, I don't know, it's just very frustrating to feel I guess maybe we're so far, these people feel like now that they're so attached to that identity, they've formed back in Verdansk that everyone cheats.
Yeah.
And even now that it's like we have so much proof and like so much stuff stacking up against such like a wild narrative that it doesn't make sense to believe anymore, but they still do. And so, yeah, it's making me realize I don't really lead into it anymore. I used to get super frustrated, super mad, want to come up with like ways to rebuttal and prove people wrong. But again, I finally realized it was probably a waste of time and energy. And I really do hope going in the future, all the Warzone creators and players just to decide to completely ignore them. Because at that point,
Yeah.
they can continue to foster their little community. But as far as like getting more reach to like, I guess, not normal audience, but people that are just like understand like that's all facade, that's not real. I feel like it just kind of lets them like get views off those people, and then those people will go and attack them, and then it just leads to like the algorithm. So there's some smart people on that side that know they can make plenty of money, and it's just going to keep happening, and they can take advantage of not only the people that will unfortunately believe it, but also like the anger and emotions of the people that don't believe but are just going to come attack them anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a really mature answer, and I think that's a good kind of like way to think about this overall kind of climate of Warzone currently. Hopefully that changes going into Warzone 2. There's going to be a wider spread amount of content that can be made, and so some of that kind of cheating accusation content, if we can even call it content, is will be drowned out amongst the rest of the actual creative content. So totally hear you on that. Well, we're kind of cleaning up and finishing up this interview. You've been amazing thus far. A couple small things I want you to kind of talk about that I think a lot of people at home would love to hear. You've told your story. You've talked about your competitive kind of background. Do you have any like tips for people that are up and coming in the scene? Competitors, content creators, maybe both? Do you have anything that you tell people on your stream whenever you get asked? I'm sure you get asked this, like, how did you become successful? How should I become successful? How do I do this like you do this? Do you have any of those kind of like basic tips that you're like, this will work, or this is what I always tell the people at home?
Well, I'll give the answer I normally give. I always tell people, hey, I have no idea. Just to be honest, you know, there is no blueprint when it comes to this space. My main tip for people is to, if this is something you genuinely care about, it's something you're super passionate about, you're not in it for the wrong reasons, whether that's like monetary gains, and like whatever it could possibly be. As long as you're in it for like the love of the game or the love of the craft of entertaining or being a content creator, you know, and you stay consistent with it and just try to be a really good person. I'll be honest, there's millions of people trying to do what these people are obviously trying to do in Warzone or just create content in general. And it's very easy to see, I would say, in my opinion, the people that are like good, genuine people that mean well, and you really want to help those people out. And so I would say don't lose yourself in the journey of like, I got to get there, that you almost lose that genuine, like who you are. And you almost come off as like, when you talk to people, they're like, oh, like, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to like, just get this or like get that. Like, just stay genuine to you, stay grinding, hold yourself accountable. And yeah, like most of the Warzone scene does, just don't point fingers if things aren't going your way. It's okay to be like, maybe I'm not doing something right, and just keep trying to, I guess, improve not only yourself as a player, content creator, but a person every day, you know?
I love that take. And I gotta say, it's cool hearing that from you as well, because you fit the bill there. You are one of the most genuine people I've interacted with in the space. You, Joe, and really everybody you surround yourselves with have been some of my favorite people to chat with, because you're always so genuine, you're yourself, and you're willing to help out anybody that comes around as long as it makes sense, right? And it makes sense for you and your brand. But at the same time, you're just you the whole time. There's never been a time I've interacted with you where it's like, oh, I'm just trying to do my thing and like I'm gonna like shut all these people out. You're always so welcoming with things like that. So wanted to give you the gas there, that you're kind of walking that advice you're already giving, which is really, really cool.
I appreciate that, man. I really do. I'm trying to be better. I'm not gonna act like I'm like some amazing like whatever. I'm actively trying to get better, but I really appreciate that. You're the GOAT. Like I said, you're the best to ever do it. So
I appreciate that too.
You guys need a moment? I can step away.
Right? things are heating up tonight on the cast.
Incredible.
All right. But okay, we got a final question for you, Exzachtt. What is next for you? What do we have to look forward from you in the months ahead? Content plans, stream plans. Tell me about what we should expect coming up to Warzone 2 and beyond that.
For sure. I would say getting to Warzone 2, leading up to that, as far as content goes, I'm just trying to get mentally prepared. My main goal is to just kind of hit the ground running once that game drops. As far as content goes, competing goes, one of our big goals this year as a trio was obviously to like win a tournament, and we were able to knock down a lot of like podium finishes this past year. So I'm looking forward to bigger tournaments to be able to continue that success into, and maybe even improve not only as a trio, but just as a player in general. So trying to take over the content scene and also competitive scene. I don't plan to sleep a lot this year, but I'm really excited. I'm just really excited to have something new to grind. And we've been playing Warzone in this like set movement and the mechanics for so long that this is like beyond overdue. It's going to be so refreshing to have guns, new guns to grind, just the feel of things, movement, and just everyone like learning together again. I think it's going to really help build a community, or at least bring us back together again, because we need each other. We got to learn, you know, who's going to be the nastiest, how to be the nastiest. So I'm really excited. I look forward to it.
It's a great answer. Well, tell the people at home, if they don't know who you are and they're listening to this for the very first time, where can people find you? Shout out your socials, and then we'll call it a day here.
Awesome. Yeah. If you guys don't know me, I am Exzachtt on all socials with 2 T's. A lot of people can't spell it right, so I try to let people know.
Sure.
But yeah, Exzachtt on all socials. And again, thank you guys so much for having me on. This was a blast.
Yeah, dude, it was a ton of fun. It was long overdue, and wishing you all the best with Warzone 2 and CDLR. Good luck tonight, my friend. Go slay out, brother.
Yep. Thank you guys so much. You guys have an awesome night.
Yeah, you too. Hey, shout out to the Stock Gang. Shout out to Exzachtt. You're totally right, Katie. He had some of the best answers, super mature, and honestly, just one of those people that is just going to kind of shoot you straight when you go through these types of answers, right? Never trying to put on any sort of a facade. He's just going to tell you exactly how it is. So really enjoyed that sitting down with Exzachtt. And again, we wish him all the best with CDLR qualifiers tonight. Would love to cast over him in the finals and the semifinals. But Katie, we've got a ton to talk about. We've got Shitters Digest.
We're not done yet.
Yeah, so whenever we do this podcast, if you guys don't know, it's maybe the first time you're listening. Whenever we do this podcast, we always have an incredible guest on, and then we have something called Shitters Digest, where we talk about the drama in the scene. And there's a lot of drama we're going to talk about today. But always, before those 2 segments, we have a very exciting segment to talk through, which is called the Kolosseum Stat Chat. Kolosseum, our sponsor on our podcast, is one of the reasons we're even able to do this podcast. They're an incredibly awesome daily fantasy Warzone streaming site that you can go to, !sponsor, !Kolosseum in the chat. You can go check them out. You can win free money by basically creating a fantasy team, just like you do in other sports, except it's Warzone. Super, super cool. You can go buy Exzachtt on that. They have Friday freebies every single Friday and a number of other competitions. So we're going to talk through some stats that they provide in the Kolosseum Stat Chat, and then we'll get into our Shitters Digest. Well, let's take a look at some of the numbers from this past week. 49 kills in Caldera. FaZe Blue dropping the biggest game of the last week. Pretty impressive. There you go. 49, not bad at all.
No, not bad. 49 is extremely impressive. Watch Waldo there on Fortune's Keep with 47, and Tech with 49 on Rebirth. So no one quite able to get over that cusp into a 50 bomb. But I mean, let's be real. Anytime you're dropping games that are going to be in the 30 plus range, it is already extremely impressive. But a nice start for them.
I'm pretty sure Watch Waldo did that in the Fortune's Keep playlist for CDLR too. Watch Waldo has been putting on a show recently. Watch out for this man coming up into CDLR. Let's keep going through here. Look at this. Okay, this is the last week, Katie. Victories. Magnificent, as per usual, is near the top, this time at the top. 83 victories in the last week. I mean, you're averaging over 10 a day, over 11 a day, almost 12 a day. That's crazy. That is so many wins every single day. But I guess if you're streaming 12 hours a day, maybe that's not that insane. I mean,
the grind is real. I mean, take a look. Knight with over 3,000 kills. And something to actually love to see, because I know they'll be part of CDLR, is the victory streak and the placements. Apathy and Slack, they have been grinding so hard, and they had an 18 victory streak and an average placement of 3rd. I mean, any streaks that are in double digits, I say it every single time we do this, I'm always so impressed, because it's not easy to do.
Yeah, no, I gotta say, My sleeper pick, if you can even call them a sleeper pick for CDLR, I think Apathy and Slacked are going to run it. I think they're going to do fantastic. They've been playing a
I think
ton.
it's fair to call them a sleeper pick. I think it's fair.
Slacked had run. I mean, technically, Apathy was a part of Huskers Unrational and Scummin when they won CDLR 1, so that's kind of a sleeper pick. But this guy Slacked in particular has been ripping Fortune's Keep constantly, so I'll be curious to see how they do. You can see Slacked their average placement of 3rd as well. And then the final thing we do for the Kolosseum Stat Chat today is talk about our over-unders. We've been doing this for a while, and Katie, you're pulling away.
Yes! We're back up to +2!
I'm just an idiot, I think. From the last week, Katie gained on me again and had some more successes.
What was the one? Was it
was
most
kills? Yeah, it was most kills. I
knew it.
It wasn't even close,
No.
Katie. It was the 2K mark was over under, and if you saw the number, it was 3.1 thousand kills in the last week. So I wasn't even close going under there. I don't know what I was thinking, but
I will
I'm
say
dumb.
my Kolosseum predictions are going strong, but I will give it to you. When it comes to tournament predictions, no one is better than you at tournament predictions. You are incredibly good. So I will take this arena. You can have that one.
Sure. Well, to finish off the Kolosseum Stat Chat, we'll go through this and do a quick over-under. Katie, Aiden had 91 Gulag wins this last week. Do you think it's going to be, or 94, sorry. Do you think it's going to be over-under 90 this next week?
This next week. Well, I'm always trying to remember. It's this current week or when we talk about it next week? It's this current week that we're talking about, right?
This current week, meaning like 7 days from now, I would assume.
All right. I mean, look, all these quals and everything else has still been crazy. People are still going to be mad grinding Fortune's Keep. So I'm going to probably be sticking with the consistent overs.
Okay. You can't take that back. Fortune's Keep doesn't have a gulag. Let's go. See ya. I'm going to go under. We're going to go most kills in a week. There's still a lot of people grinding Call of Duty. Oh, she's leaving. My bad. Hey, my bad. L's in chat for Katie. Oh, she's literally gone. Well, that means I get the rest of these and she doesn't get any of them. So most kills in all matches in the next week. 2.7 is the number that we're going with. And I'm going to go over again. 2.7. Oh, by the way, you just said under on everything for the rest of this, and I'm just kidding.
No, do not rig this. I will get the detectives in here. I will get Doug in here to expose that this is all rigged.
Shitter's Digest right around the corner, waiting to talk about Doug. 2.7 kills. It was 3.1 this week. What are you thinking next week?
Okay, what am I looking at now? 2.7. Oh, most kills. I'm still going over.
Okay, great. Victory streak of over under 20 was 18 this week.
Ooh, that one's tough.
Yep.
I'm gonna say under.
I'm gonna say under as well. And headshots, and this is most headshots in a single match. 23 was last week's leader. 24 is the over under this week.
That's so.
You got it, I believe.
I'm gonna say over.
Okay, I will say over as well. Great round of over under there, Katie. I'm sorry I made you leave the desk. I apologize. I regret everything.
You're picking on me. You're being so mean. I don't know why.
It was kind of mean, and I'm
going to see you tomorrow.
That is very true.
Mean.
I will see you tomorrow at TwitchCon, and you're going to berate me. Anyways, great round Kolosseum Stat Check. Go check them out. When your favorite Warzone streamers win, you win. It's as simple as that. It is free to enter on Fridays, and they have some paid entry, but you can use code BOTLOBBY to get a little extra funds in your pocket. It's really, really cool. You have a salary cap, and each of the streamers costs a different amount. So if you pick the right sleepers, your fantasy team is going to do fantastic. So go check them out. Again, ! sponsor in the chat if you're live, or down in the description below if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube or other socials. And make sure you subscribe to the channels and follow everything and leave us reviews, because that's super helpful for us to make this podcast continue. But Katie, take us into Shitter's Digest to finish off the podcast today, because we got some stuff to talk about.
I'm not gonna say I'm right.
Well, you should.
I'm right. Last week we talked about Shitter's Digest, and I talked at length about the shenanigans that were going on with Censor and Nadia, and I said this is not real. This is all fake. This is all just to drum up September ending discounted subs, to make money, to be relevant, to get impressions, and to be in the spotlight. And that's exactly what it was, because a couple hours after we did that episode, GOJJ, Doug comes out with his whole thing on Nadia, and it's him getting off a jet ski proposing to her. And if that was, it is so dumb, so incredibly stupid. And I guess it gets people talking, but I just looked at that and it's gotten so out of hand. And I don't want to spend too much time on it because I don't really want to give it, that spotlight. But it's disappointing and it's silly. And I think we can do a little bit better than that, I will say.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, obviously it's being used for clout and it's being used for views and subs, and he gained all of those things. Clout maybe not so much, but the other things he gained. And Nadia is something that we've been saying, we don't, we're done talking about the cheating stuff because she's not cheating or it doesn't matter or whatever you want to say for that. But she has become one of the largest streamers in Warzone. Like very obviously, like she was like top 4 overall in Warzone this past month. Yeah, it was 3rd overall. So like she is doing fantastic. So regardless of all of that, like she is really kind of using this right now in an incredible way. And currently she's traveling around, I think it's LA, hitting these different setups, playing at them, doing the same thing she does on a daily basis. So it's like the debate's already over. Like she's at the FaZe warehouse, I think right now. She was at TSM's place. She was at the NRG Castle, and she's putting up great numbers on Rebirth, Fortune's Keep, or otherwise. So it is what it is, but Doug's just a clown. Censor Martin, not Modern Warzone, also a clown, but in a different way.
I mean, let's just be clear. Things like that are embarrassing. It's just embarrassing.
No, and I think I think her response made it even better. I think the response was something along the lines of like, it's a good thing that I like women. Like it was like very much so like, you're an idiot. And didn't really even give him any more time of day than that. And there was a lot of. I mean,
it doesn't deserve more than that, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. It's a frustrating thing to kind of use somebody else for clout, but hey, such is the gaming space, I suppose. Well, there's a couple other things that we need to talk about, and I think one of the big ones, I love the word you used here in our notes, the kerfuffle that happened with CDLR. We mentioned it briefly earlier during the podcast with Exzachtt because it directly influenced him, and I had some DMs from some other folks that were like, hey, could you check on this? This doesn't look right, that kind of stuff. And to be fair, let's give Game Battles and Call of Duty League their credit. They did fix it very quickly, but if you guys didn't know, the scoreboard was wrong for a while. And even emails went out to the teams that made it through the top 64 spots while the leaderboard was wrong, saying they made it. And then unfortunately, because it was wrong, they had to adjust some things, and some people went out and some people moved into that top 64. So they had to kind of like recall some of those emails and say, I'm sorry, you guys didn't make it. What ended up happening was, from what I understand and what I could tell from the back end, like the scorings were just slightly off. Like there was a multiplier that was off. So it was calculating like individual scores rather than team scores, which is the whole point of the way they were doing the leaderboard this time around, was that you had to play with your team and your team scores are what counted, rather than individuals kind of dragging up your scores and reverse boosting and all that stuff that happened for World Series of Warzone open quals. So this is the better way, and this leaderboard is the better leaderboard. It was just unfortunate that it messed some people up, that hey, I got 63rd on the first leaderboard. I got an invite to the semifinal or the second level round of qualifiers. And all of a sudden, unfortunately, you can't. And there's really nothing to do about that besides, obviously be frustrated. Ultimately, it's your fault. It was just some unfortunate, extra hope that didn't pay off.
Well, yeah. And look, mistakes happen, errors happen. I saw, again, when we were talking with Exzachtt, I made that joke about, and let's be very clear, it was joke, about paying off to get into the qual, because people, it goes into what I was talking about with this kind of cloud of mistrust in Warzone right now, where this was a accident. It was a simple mistake that was corrected. And yet somehow people are saying, oh, you paid to get in, or it was rigged, or they're kicking people out who qualified for content creators. And that's just simply not true. So it really sucks for the people negatively impacted by this, who maybe thought they qualled or didn't qual. So I'm sorry to them, but it's just tough. But at the end of the day, mistakes happen, and they, corrected it as quickly as they could.
Yeah, and Call of Duty League put out a apology tweet as well about that, because obviously it was frustrating for some people that didn't make it. But the fix was the right one. They needed to do that quickly, and they did. And then once they made the fix, like, this is right, and this is the better leaderboard, to be clear, because it is calculating team points. So that's the update there. A couple other kind of like side updates. You've got the CDLR, a second round of quals, I believe, today. And once those get finished up, we're going to take those 64 teams down to 32 teams. Then there will be one more round of qualifiers that will then take your 32 teams into 16 teams. And then those will be split into two groups into the semifinals, which is when some of our invited teams will be added in, which I think one of the big ones that was announced that we should talk about, Katie, is Rocker. Rocker was announced, the team, and this time Almond is playing with Rocker and brought along the TBE. He brought along Tommy and Newbz over to Rocker this time around. And I think that's notable too, because, you know, the last time this happened, it was the reverse, right? CDLR split one. Almond didn't represent Rocker. He went over and played with, I believe, 100 Thieves with Tommy and Newbz. So they're getting a little bit of like, yeah, exactly, taking turns. Tommy's going to go over there and play Rocker, and Newbz is still this kind of unsigned floater. Now, Katie, I tweeted about that, and I was talking about how this is like interesting, cool.
Tweets too.
I'm telling you, I don't know anything. I'm not leaking anything. But
I do not know anything either.
I tweeted that, and I said, "Hey, Newbz still unsigned, floating around," or I said, "Still unsigned, unfortunately. Like, he should be signed." And he tweeted almost like a hinting at something was going on behind the scenes. And if I remember correctly, Newbz did tweet out one of those little contract signing tweet gifts.
He did. Oh, he's been tweeting about it, like, a month ago. The org I signed to. Oh, he's been.
I'm telling you.
So we'll see. I mean, this is someone who should have been with a org, and realistically a top tier one, for a long time. So I'm very curious to see where he ends up kind of calling home for the time being. And congratulations to him being in order as well, because again, very long overdue. But I think you're right. I wouldn't be surprised, because TBE, they make it clear, right? They're only going to play with each other, and if they can't play with each other, like, just not going to be a thing. Yeah. So I imagine when that 100T thing happened last time, I wouldn't be surprised if Rocker had been like, okay, hey, but like next time, like, it's got to be under us. Compromises in terms of fine, but you are signed to us, so next time, like, you need to, because realistically, Almond is their biggest Warzone creator, so you want him under that banner. I'm curious to see how they do. Obviously, they've been a little rusty as of late, maybe not exactly playing to the caliber we expect of them, but hey, this is a 100K, a lot of money on the line, so I'm sure they will be out to impress. But I'm very excited to see about Newbz. Maybe we'll have to do some snooping to try and figure out where he went.
And the final note on that, look, I'm not trying to drum up any drama here. Let's be very clear. I'm just reporting what I'm seeing. I saw Tommy tweet about how there's been a lot of ups and downs recently, and specifically things will be changing from like a streaming side. I don't know, the way it was worded, it could hint at the fact that he's not potentially going to be long-term with 100 Thieves. That it was the first thing that came to mind with the way the tweet was worded. So we'll keep an eye out for that. I'm not saying that's even partially true. It's more of just a, hey, we'll keep a lookout on whether or not he's going to re-sign with 100 Thieves, because I haven't seen the re-sign tweet, and it's been well over, I think, his 2 years or whatever it was at originally, and so could certainly have a contract I don't know anything about, but
maybe lots of digging.
Who knows? TBE could all go one place. Could be he set ups and downs. Like, I don't know. There's some things floating around there. We'll keep an eye out for that. And I'm really excited too to see from a larger scale, Katie, like going into Warzone 2. How many more of these Warzone creators are actually going to be picked up by orgs?
Yeah. And again, we've talked about it before, but I think having things like a ranked mode, especially a very smooth launch, like a lot of these orgs are going to look at the launch of Warzone 2 as a determining factor on whether they are even interested in picking anyone up. Not even necessarily who, but if it's a lackluster launch or some of those big names aren't sticking around, they don't see a lot of positive sentiment, maybe behind the scenes things are a little rocky, they're not going to want to pick someone up, because why would they? So if Warzone 2 hits the ground running, which I do believe that it will, there's a ton of very high level talent that I think could come out of the gates with some big org signings, and maybe some orgs that aren't necessarily deep in the the weeds of Warzone will start casting a wider net into that arena.
Yep, totally agree. Well, that's all I've got, Katie, on my list. I think that's all you've got as well. So we'll kind of close it out there. We want to thank everybody for tuning into the Bot Lobby podcast. This has been another banger episode, and super excited to continue to crank out episode after episode, week after week. Shout out to Kolosseum, and shout out to all of our amazing guests, specifically Exzachtt. If you haven't checked him out, go check him out on stream. His energy is always contagious, and he has a great community, as we've already talked about a lot today. But final words, Katie, to close this out. Anything you're working on? We're both going to TwitchCon. We'll be working there together, which I'm pumped about.
Yeah, we have an event at TwitchCon that we're very much so looking forward to. You'll probably see us tweeting out about it. If you're going to be there, would love for you to swing by and say hi. But once again, thank you to Exzachtt for coming on. Articulate, well-spoken, thought-out answers that I think are very poignant when it comes to the state Warzone is in right now, and especially the streaming grind. And again, fantastic community that showed out in droves today.
Totally agree. Excited about TwitchCon. Excited to announce that we're working something at TwitchCon, which would be a blast. But that's all we've got. Thank you guys for supporting the Bot Lobby podcast. Make sure that you go subscribe, follow, leave a review. If you listen to it on audio, let us know. Tweet at us. You can see our Twitters down below, at Grandmaster GOJJ, at Worlds Bedford. Please give us some love there, and give us any questions. Anybody you would like to see, comment down below. But until next time, we will see you then. And peace. We'll see you in a week.